Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Sorry for the delay. I have had some technical difficulties at my end, so now I'm up and running. I will wait a few minutes before I start this session. But before I start, I would like to just give you some disclaimer. I am not going to give you any sample or any other thing. This is purely a discussion on how to build a very professional CV for basically any job, including the postdoctoral fellowships. And since it is, only for the forum where everybody already has achieved their PhD, I expect that you guys should know the basic of this preparation of resume or your CV. I have reviewed some CVs so far, and to be honest, they were not up to the par, meaning that it was not professionally done. Always remember one thing: these CVs or cover letter, anything that anybody inquire about or ask for, they tell a lot about your personality, about your character, about your training. If you do not spend good amount of time making a good CV, it can backfire, because what they do is they like to see that how much effort and how much seriousness you have put preparing these documents, either a CV, your cover letter, or even in your email. So be careful every time you make any document. Put a lot of effort. Make sure that you're giving them enough information and properly. Having said that, I don't expect to cover everything today in this short presentation or a video talk. But what I would like to bring is the key points. What you guys can later on review the video, try to improve it. And if you have any question, you can send me the CV. I can, basically review it. But what I expect you guys to do is that when you make a CV, it should not be just done, to show that you have achieved something. It should be showing more than what you have achieved. A reviewer, either for job or any position or any particular, what I want to say, vacancy, what they want to see in your CV is that, yes, you have technical expertise, you have achieved a degree, you have published papers, but how well you can present yourself. See, your job, getting a job is not dependent on your CV or your PhD or your degree or your papers. It is how to market yourself. It's very important. A lot of the time, students, they just feel like, well, you don't have to don't have to pay much attention on these documents, and believe me, you have to. If you show them that what kind of character you have, what kind of personality you have, that gives them more about yourself rather than just your degree, your papers, and any other documents. Okay. When you start writing your CV, always remember, do not follow any particular format. A lot of people ask, can I give them any format, or can I give them any sample? Please do not use samples. You are PhDs, or you are studying your PhD right now. PhD is not an education, it's a training. Okay, it trains you how to write a paper. It trains you how to write any technical document. It trains you how to write a proposal. If you do not know how to write, that's a problem. Okay, that means you're gonna copy somebody else's CV to make your own. Don't do that. It's not creativity. It is copycat. If you want to create your own, come up with an idea, a layout which is more soothing. Make 10 different layouts, and then find somebody who mentors like me or anybody, and ask them which one they feel like looks more appropriate. When you do your own CV and you make your own unique layout, it gives another aspect of yourself, which means how creative you were to write a CV or make this CV. Don't go any professional softwares. You can do it. If they ask you to use Europass, fine, nothing wrong with it. But if they don't ask, you should always use your own creativity, your own genuine, thinking to make these documents. If I give you a CV, you just copy it and make your own. Basically, I kill your creativity. Okay. If you read a book, you make your own imagination after you read the book. Same way, when you think of making a CV, it should be your own thinking, your own, creative thoughts, your own unique imagination. That how would you like to present yourself in your CV? Okay. Of course, I'm just talking about CV today. No cover letter or anything. That might be a different topic. When you do that, write down your points before using it. Writing any you're writing in your CV. Once you start writing it, put everything in there. Okay, don't worry about is it too long, is it too short. Right now, you're just trying to provide as much information as needed or as you have. Later on, you can edit because this is your own document right now. First thing first, and that is, do not include your personal information in the CV. I know some culture, some countries, they prefer you to write your personal information, your dad's name, your passport number, your address. Don't do that. It's too much of information. They don't need that. All you can do is your name, first name, last name, your email, the very next page, very next line, sorry, and the country or the city you belong to. That's it. So your name, which city you belong to in the country, and the same line you can write your email. Do not write in your phone number because they're not going to call you. When they need to call you, they will basically email you to inquire about your email address. That's about it. And what you can do, put it in the header. So this way it will show up on all the papers, on all the rest of the pages, and you don't have to repeat them on every page because it just propagate on the rest of the following pages. That's one. Number two, and that is, what you can do is, when you write your academic information should be always on the top. Do not write personal statement in the CV. Please do not, because this is for postdoc. This is for higher qualified person. It is not for any job. It is for very specific job. So when you write personal statement, which is very generic, that I want to work in an organization to grow and all that, it doesn't really give you any information. It's just a waste of time and resources, and also a page part of the page. Just straight go to your education, write the degree you have achieved. Of course, will be PhD, where it was done, the name of your country or the institution, and then the year of graduation, from when to when you graduated. That's it. Do not write more than that. And of course, your GPA, it does matter. In 3 lines, you can write about your PhD, your master's, undergrad. Do not write about high school. They are not interested in your high school. You already have 3 degrees after your high school, which is more than sufficient. Okay. Don't give any other information. You just give which degree, where from, and all that. Now the third comes, and that topic would be your research projects. Write down about research projects in the chronological order. Okay, the last one first, and then you write those. Then the next step would be, or the next topic would be your papers. Now, let's say if you have a lot of papers, then you can just write those specific ones, the new ones where you are interested to pursue your degree in, or which are relevant to this particular job. So you have to, of course, modify your CV for every single job. This is how it works. So when you modify it, what's going to happen is that let's say you have 7, 8 papers, which is fine. But if you have 20, 25, and of course, some of them they might have, because they have worked a lot before they're applying for, for any good position, you can write few of them. And then later on, what you can do, you can just, not write all of them, just as selective papers. You can do that. Within papers, you have to define which are peer review and which are just a conference paper. And after that, rest you can do, let's say, you have any skills that you have, so you can specify the name of the skills that you have basically achieved while you have been working, and then how have you used them, and those kind of stuff. Or if you have any awards that you have earned, if you have any grants that you have earned, then that will definitely come before your papers. Or any patent, if you have any patent done, definitely before the CV, before your papers. Okay, what I'm trying to say is, in the first page, education, research, your achievements, rewards, and then your paper should start. Of course, you're not going to have all the papers on the first page, but at least your first paper should come on that, or a few of them. And then the rest of the thing can come, if you have done any voluntary work, any social work, that can come to, later on, not a problem. Now, here are the things that were very easy, basic that I described. Now, what I would like you to keep in mind and listen very carefully is the things that you should not do. And those are, please do not put a picture on your CV, okay, unless they ask. Or even if you want to put, or if they ask you, please put a very professionally taken photo. Do not take a selfie and put it on. It's very unprofessional, and it can cost you a lot. It can literally just, they might say, you know what, this person is not serious. It's not a joke. You're not sending something to your friend. It is a professional document, so it has to be a professional picture if needed. Otherwise, don't put a picture. I was of a different opinion that you should put a picture, because so they know which gender you are, but they can search your name on Google and they can find. I mean, again, if they have an interest to do so. Okay. Second thing, which every student does it, and very annoying and unfortunate, do not waste empty spaces. Okay. A lot of time you write something on one column, something here, and then the right side of the page is completely empty. This is not acceptable. You are a PhD. You have been trained to write technical papers, reports, and grants. You should know how to utilize the paper properly. It tells a lot about your personality. Okay, you think it might be a very small thing, but trust me, it's very important. It's very something that people look. Grammatical mistakes, okay, punctuation. The moment I open any document, the first thing I see is this. And if it's not very well done, it does turn you off. Okay, so keep in mind, the way you utilize the paper page is very important. Also, font size and font style. You'll be amazed how many times I have seen CV. The heading is different font style, the next line is different, and then you go to the next line is completely different font size, forget about the style, which is very childish. I'm sorry to be harsh, but you should not do this. You should keep in mind, if your heading is italic, all the headings should be italic. If they are bold, all of them it should be consistent. It tells a lot about your personality. Again, I have to repeat this stuff. It shows that you're not a serious student. It shows that you do not care. You just don't give any seriousness. It shows that you are not enthusiastic to get a job. You're just trying it out. And these people need excuses to basically reject you. If you do your homework, if you do properly make your CV, believe me, it will take you weeks or months to modify it, to improve it. Okay. Now, some of the other thing that I would like to point out is, when you put your papers, some people, I have reviewed some CVs where a PhD student put almost 30 to 35 papers. Okay. Honestly speaking, you cannot, it's almost humanly impossible that you can write 20 or 30 papers and as a PhD student in span of 5 years. It is like 5 papers every year. It's like 2 months or 2.5 months you write a paper. Writing paper takes months. How can you even collect the data to write those kind of papers? And I did share with some of these papers, these CVs, to one of the recruiter for a postdoc, and she agreed with me on a lot of these points. One of the things that she did, which I did not do, was to check the authenticity of those papers. And yes, we were correct. Out of 25-30 papers that a student has put on their CV, only 2 and 3 of them were in a good journal or in a good journal who are on the index. The rest of them were just some journals that nobody cared about. Okay, so if you do that, you're shooting yourself in the foot. If you only have a couple of papers and those are in any journal, of course put. But if you have so many, put only those which have a good impact. Otherwise, you're just basically showing something which is unrealistic. Do the math. You are publishing 5 papers every year. I mean, that is not humanly possible. I would just put it that way. Okay. Those, and also I already talked about that. Do not write any career objective. Do not write that on any personal statement. And I'm going to go over some of these examples. I'm not going to show anything because I don't want to give you an example. I don't want to give you any samples. I would just give you the basic errors that people make. Do not write PhD in front of your name. Do not write doctor in front of name. So if I'm Ayaz, I should say Ayaz Khan. I should not say Dr. Ayaz Khan, or I should say Ayaz Khan PhD. This is very, basically you're trying to show off. Okay. If you have a PhD, that's more than enough. You don't have to call yourself whoever you are. Okay. Consistency. A lot of time you repeat stuff. Some student will write one thing, a project, and the same project they repeat, and then they give a different kind of explanation. So be very consistent when you write. Spacing between the lines. Spacing between the lines. When you do any kind of editing, a lot of time the space between your heading and the next line should be consistent with the rest of it. So your first heading, then the next heading comes here, and you have a lot of material. You wrote it, but now when you write this one, and then after the first line, let's say you did a research project, you leave some space. Then you wrote all your projects. After that, you're saying research papers, and then it's a big gap. And then within paper, there is a big gap. Don't do that. Use these different strategies, and nobody has to teach you that. You should know as a PhD student how the CV should be done properly and with a less amount of wasting the different spacing. Repetition, I already told you. Do not write repetition. If you have already mentioned something, do not try to do under different categories, because it's very unprofessional. Publication and your thesis should be mentioned separately, because yes, your thesis is your publication, but do not write exactly the same if you already published papers. Basically, you're repeating yourself. Okay. When you write your papers, always remember, keep your publications status up to date. So let's say you made your CV a year ago and some of your paper were in process, but now they are published. If you use the same old one, you're basically sending a paper, your CV that says, my such and such journal paper is in process. And believe me what, you wrote it was done in 2018 and now 2019. So there must be some updates. If you don't write it, they will catch it. And that means you did not pay attention to these things, which is your job. When you write your papers, cite your papers, it should be author name, title, and then the journal name, year, and page number, and all that properly be done. Don't, and again, here a lot of students make mistake. They do not pay attention to the font size, and that's where, and the people catch them. Experienced people, they see it in within a minute. Okay. So this is one example. I'm going to go to some others, and again, I'm bringing all these things to your attention because people do not sometimes write things seriously. If you have any experience about somebody invited you for a talk, please write it down. Invited talk. Don't just write some presentation that you give in the department, because this is not necessary anymore, especially when you're a PhD student. If you're applying for a PhD, it's a different story. Don't write about extracurricular activities. Okay, I like to read books, I like to swim, I like to bike. No, give them something which is meaningful. If you have competed in something, show it. Otherwise, small thing here and there means nothing. Okay. So one comment came that in Europe, they ask for to put a photo. Yes, you can put a photo if they ask you. Okay, but what I was trying to point out is have a professional taken picture, not a selfie. Let me repeat. I do not expect you guys to put a selfie on your, or nobody expect you to put a selfie on your CV. It has to be a properly taken professional pictures. This is the whole point that I wanted to highlight. I have already excuse me. I've already covered this, but I'm gonna say it again. Excuse me. Do not write personal information, father's name, date of birth, national ID card number. No, please don't do that. I know in Pakistan, this is something that people have been doing it, or they've been expected to do it. Don't do it internationally. Nothing, no religion information, no nationality. Just name, email address, your city and country. That's it. That's all the information you would need. Okay. Um, Putting your papers in chronological order is very important. The latest paper would come first, and then you go down. Okay. If you write any, if you have attended any, conferences or stuff, don't write just 1 or 2 days, workshop and stuff. Unless you have some skills learned from there, then it's much more appropriate. But even if you do, don't do it in a in the first few. You can write it down later on. If you're multilingual and you know it, but please put those. But one of the biggest problem is the skills that you have achieved. You try to write it so many times. So let's say you did some project and you did write there that you have a skill to perform this particular technique. Do not write it again somewhere else. Okay, it's very inappropriate to do so. Sometime when you write some information, and what happens is you write the whole in one line and just one word comes to the next line. Now you might feel it's very small thing, but believe me, it's not. For reviewer, it's a big thing. You should know how to make some of the words short, or how to rewrite it to make this one word which is coming on the next line in one line. Okay, so let's say you wrote that you are graduated from University of Engineering Technology, Lahore, Pakistan, right? And the moment you put your year of graduation, it comes to next line. Now you would say, how can I change the country and the university name? I understand. Very simple example. Instead of writing university, you can say uni, or university, you can write the full, or you can say, instead of technology, and say ENGG, that means engineering. Everybody knows that, and tech. The moment you do this next line, year of graduation will come on that. See, these are small things, but I don't have to teach you. I would expect it. You should know this, but unfortunately, I have not seen in many of these cases, which is why I'm doing this with you guys. Okay, the flow of your CV is also important. When you say education, you do research project, your papers. Okay, after that, if you feel like you have to specify some skills, please do so. Okay, and write it down how you used it. Let's say if you even have a managerial skills, so you can divide skills in technical, education, and also organizational, and you can say social. But when you write, don't just write, oh, I'm a good speaker. No, give example. I spoke about different issues in society, and including, or you can say, I'm a social worker. I would like to work as a social worker, just to pay back to society. And some of the things that I have done are, and then you can say, you spoke about breast cancer, you spoke about, child abuse, you spoke about something, whatever, you have done. Please write it down properly and in what forum. Just don't say, I'm a good public speaker. No, that means nothing. Trust me. Sometimes when you just write skill, you write the name of the skill, and then you next line, and then you write 10 skills, and this is just one word, and then this whole page on the right is empty. Please don't do that. In front of the skill, if you can write how have you used it, is good, or put one skill, 2, 3, 4, make 4 columns, and then you can write 4 underneath it. Within 2 lines, you will write it. See, these are small things that you should know. But again, I'm just trying to give you some of example what I have learned so far. And I'm trying to basically cover those up. So just give you some example that how you should be doing it. Okay. Sometimes some student would write, let's say, achievement and awards, and then they try to highlight some of their more, achievements, but they write it different names. Please don't do that. It should be within one, heading. The main heading, when you put your name, please do not use 70 or 80 font size. It's too big. Yes, I understand you have to make it highlight. So instead of using 12, you can use it 18, but don't use it too big. And the font size and the font style should be consistent. If your headings are different font size, fine, but make it consistent. All the rest of the text, if it's different style of font, fine, but they should be exactly the same way. Okay. Okay. Sometimes people would specify the research interest and experience. If you do that, basically you're trying to tell the reader that this is the only area you're interested in. And again, nothing wrong. Okay. Um, but when you do it, specified for every different positions separately. So let's say if you wrote about genomics, or let's say molecular biology, don't say just my interest in molecular biology, because you have to specify pharmacology, such and such different areas that you want to work in. Then according to their need and their projects, and of course you're going to read their papers. So when you write to them in email or the CV, and you have to modify your CV for almost every position, then you can write your research interest. Okay, although it's not necessary. If you write it something which connects with their research. Don't just write, I want to be a researcher. Really, like you are a PhD, of course, this is what you did it for. Or I want to work such and such. Or do not write unrealistic things. I would like to be a researcher when I come back to Pakistan, and I want to be the head of the department. I mean, how do you know you will even be a head of the department, and why you think you are the only one? I mean, what have you done so specific? Yeah, you can say something like, there is a lack of research expertise, and I would like to fill that gap in, and for that I need to work on this area in your statement. Fine, nothing. But again, then it becomes like a very big statement, which is part of your cover letter rather than in your CV. So I am against any research interest or person statement in the CV, but if you do, be more specific. Okay. Work experience should always come after your education. Don't put it before that. Again, no. When it comes to education, just your 3 degrees, master's, PhD, bachelor is fine too, but other than below, do not put those, because those are not necessary. If you have earned some scholarship, that should come under the reward, and please use that. It's very good. All right, again, I'm just of course going pretty quick. Sometime when you number them, you do not pay attention. So I was reading with this one CV, and somebody put, let's say, number 1, and after number 1, they did not pay attention. So they wrote, let's say, paper number 1, okay, and then wrote the name of the paper, and then the rest of the thing. I don't know where things went wrong in editing. The very next line where the title was supposed to come, it came 2, and then where it was the journal name, it came 3. This is very sloppy and silly mistake. What should have been just 1, and then the 3 lines belongs to that number 1. Okay, so please pay attention. If you don't pay attention, somebody else would, and for them it's more than enough to reject you. Okay. Spacing, and this is the last point I would do, and then I'm going to just open the floor for questions. A lot of time when you write, you say research papers, and then you write papers here, or you write about your experience. So you put a date and then experience, then put a date, experience. See what you did just. So you put your date here, and then here you're writing your experience. Anything below your date is now empty, and that is a waste of time, space. And trust me, it is not taking a very good practice. So what you can do, you put a date, the name where you did, and then the very next line, start from very left and write about your experience. Use that, and be creative. With that, I will stop. And again, I just gave you a very basic, generic, layout. And I expect you guys to work on it and share with me. I'm more than happy to review it, but do not expect that we will provide you any, sample or layout. That is not what we want. A lot of time people use the tabular where they use the boxes. Please don't use box. It is very complicated. Use something which is more easy to work with. Word page is very easy to, MS Office is pretty okay to deal with. And be creative when you do any kind of, layout. Yes, you can write the conference presentation. So I'm going to go some of these questions to answer. And then if you have more questions, please write it down. I will answer those. So one of the questions is, can we write a conference presentation? Yes, those are important because you were invited, you submitted it. Yes, the patent should come. I have already covered this. The patent should come right after, even before your research paper. So your academics, your research projects, then your patent or your grants if you have any grant, and then your research papers. And the book chapter, yes, the book chapter is your achievement, a publication. So it should come research papers, conference papers, and your books. Books are, of course, writing book chapters or books is it is good, but you usually don't do any new research. You basically compile all your research papers and write a book chapter or a book. So that should come after that, but specify it and write it down where it was published, who was the publisher, and which year. Give all the information that is needed. Let me go down further. What about? Okay. So one question is, can we put your personal website? You can. There is nothing wrong, but unless there is some really important thing that they should be looking at. For instance, if you have done some projects as an entrepreneur, and you think that those should be something that should see, yes, you can definitely put those. That should not be a problem. Now, where would you put them? That is a very good question. LinkedIn, a lot of every employee now check your LinkedIn, so you can even put your LinkedIn link in your, when you write your name and stuff, just to make it easy for them. But what you can do is somewhere in the CV where you see is more appropriate and you think your personal website should be there for some good reason, you can write it. Otherwise, I would not say. They're not going to see it, because what if it's a website that has a lot of virus? They're not going to open those things, to be honest. Experience about it. Yes. So your PhD is your academic career, and your PhD is your education. It is not experience. But what you can write your skills, basically, yes, you can write your skills, but not that. Please do not put any account from Google Scholar or ResearchGate or anything, because this is something they can check if they want. Otherwise, your research papers are your product. Don't go on these thing. And secondly, if you have your journal, of course, there are. When you put your research papers there, they see whether you have published. As a PhD student, let me be very honest to you. If you are a PhD who had just one paper published, that can get you literally a postdoc, even at Harvard, MIT, and Oxford. I got a postdoc at Harvard Medical School, and my paper was not even published, but the title was, and the work was so relevant to that professor that he really created a job for me so I can join his lab. Okay, so just one paper. It was not even published. I just put it in my CV that I'm working on it. He discussed with me, and he offered me. The same way I have heard so many other people, they did not even have one paper published as a first author. I had other papers, but not as a first author. But because of my work, same way goes for anyone. If you have 10 papers, but if they are useless, it's a problem. But if you have one paper, two papers, who are really, in a good impact journal and in good research, you will get, no matter where you're from. Even if you are from very small city and town in any part of the world, you have one paper. That one paper can literally get you a postdoc. So that's why I was very, upfront to you guys that put your research paper on the first page. It could be just one paper, okay? And that is all what you need. But of course, the first author and a good journal, okay? So publication always matters. The most thing that matters is your publications, okay? All right. You can put internship that you did in other country, yes, but see, if you did not get anything out of it, that will not make a difference. Yes, you can say I have worked in different countries. Yes, you can put that internship, but not before. It should be under your work experience, but after your research papers. Okay, before research paper, it should be all your research. What have you done? And yes, if you have done a research, that can come under your academics if it was part of your research. So let's say you did PhD in Malaysia, and as a 6 month you went to USA or UK, and you spent good amount of time there to basically do some work. So you can write it down: 6 month internship or exchange scholar and this is the topic of your research, yes, it should be under your academics, okay? And then later on, you can write down what kind of research you did under the research experience, and the paper you published, of course, they will know from the name of the authors that you worked with, okay? Yes, you can do, if you're an editorial member of any good journal, you can do that, but toward the end, not on the first page. I would not suggest doing that, okay? But like I said, this is your achievement. This is something that is your reward. So you can put that under your reward or under your achievements that you are editorial in some journal. Well, you know, I do not understand what you mean transferable skills. Just write your skills. See, nobody expects you that you should know everything, but whatever the skills you have, you should have a good example to show them that you have done it well. Okay, so if you are a good, you know, in PCR or northern bottling, southern bottling, or you're good at machine learning, you know, the new, deep learning thing, and you have that, definitely those are the skills. The skill doesn't have to be exactly in the same field. So you did machine learning, let's say in banking, like you were working in some financial institution and you have done good amount of machine learning. As long as you can know the concept and the skills, you can come to medical field, no problem. See, the skill does not attach you just with one field. That same skills you can use in other fields, no problem. I'm a medical physicist. My expertise are medical imaging. I did before in in dementia, in normal aging. Now I'm working in a cancer hospital. So my skills does not bound me with one field. I can go pretty much anywhere I want. Okay. You can. So, okay, if you look as a PhD student, you cannot have so many research experiences. You have limited, okay? And if you have few papers, definitely you can write those research papers and those particular papers. What I mentioned in the start was you as a PhD student definitely cannot have 20, 25 papers. It is just unheard of. It is almost impossible because for 20, 25 papers, you have to do a lot of data, okay? For those a lot of data, you need a lot of projects. So be realistic. I mean, sometimes these things really doesn't be realistic when you write. And in my opinion, those research experiences which are relevant to them are more important. But of course, you're not going to say the other one. You should write all your research experiences. But if you make it too unrealistic, that is what I was trying to mention earlier. The references always come at toward the end. And if they don't ask, you don't have to provide them. But what you can do, if they ask, you can just provide their name, email, and the designation. And usually it's pretty standard. You can check any of the style that what needs to be done there, and just provide those if they are asking. See, references, even if you don't put them, they can ask you, and you can provide them. Those are not such a big deal. What my main concern was the professionalism of the CV layout that I have seen so far is unreal. I mean, it's very disappointing. It should be done properly. You should spend months to really finalize your CV. It needs that much of a it does need that much of a effort to really finalize your CV. Okay. What I will do, I will stop here. What I would want you guys to do is. That yes, you all your research papers is a co-author, first author, whatever author you are, definitely will go there. Of course, I mean, this is your product. You cannot be a first author on every paper, so all your papers should go on there. But what I was trying to say is, if you have unrealistic number of papers, that is a problematic. That means most of the paper were published in very low grade or not very famous journals. But if you're a co-author, yes, you put all your papers. 5, 6 papers, I understand. But as a PhD student, if you put 20, 25 papers, the problem is that's unrealistic. You cannot write 5 papers every year as a PhD student. It just doesn't make any sense. So put those which are published in a good journal, and they have a good impact, and they have a good, projects on it. Okay. With that, I will finish it here because almost 40 minutes. You can comment on this, and if needed, we can have another session. That should be not a problem. See, what we want you from this forum is that we want you to be prepared so good that you can pretty much apply anywhere you want. not dependent on us. Our job is not to provide you a link to any position. Our job is to prepare you, your CV, your personality, for interviews. We can do that too. If hopefully I will also cover that, how to give an interview, how to write a cover letter. Just be prepared, search on your own, and get these jobs. Okay. I wish you all the best of luck, and please leave a comment. And if needed, I can answer those in a video or just in the comment section. I hope you all enjoyed it, and have a good rest of the day.